Alan, clearly Brooklands Museum would have to be here, is key part of heritage in British motorsport.
Well, Brooklands is where modern motor racing started, and without Brooklands we wouldn't be watching the Bahrain Grand Prix this weekend. Everything started at Brooklands. The whole history of racing on a closed motor course started there. Yes, so we had to be here to remind people and to bring people to Brooklands to see what goes on there, and also to remind them of the special events that we're running at the museum.
I mean, there are some amazing events throughout the year. Is this car here involved in any of those events?
This car, the Napier Railton Special, is the highlight of our motoring collection. It lives at the museum, and we get it out and run it as often as possible. And whenever we have the excuse at an event, we get it out and run it. And we also take it out to other people's events to make sure as many people as possible get to see it.
Can you tell us a bit about the history of the car?
The car was built in over the winter of 1932-33 for John Cobb, who was a wealthy fur broker, had lots of money and wanted to go long-distance record breaking, and he wanted to race at Brooklands. And so he commissioned Thompson and Taylors, who had a factory inside the Brooklands track, to build this car for him. And it's a unique one-off motor car. It's the fastest car ever around Brooklands, averaged 143 miles an hour lap there. It at one stage held the world 24-hour record, which it set on the salt flats at Bonneville. And if there's a number you want to take away from today, just imagine 4 people drove this car for an average of 150 miles an hour for 24 hours in 1936 on the salt flats.
Absolutely incredible, and it's a stunning piece of machinery as well.
It is an absolutely beautiful piece of machinery, as well as being technically very clever. It has a 24-litre, 530 horsepower Napier Lion aero engine in it, so it's good for about 170 miles an hour in period. Does about 3 miles to gallon when you use it, as we do. But it's a truly amazing car, and one of the most successful British racing cars of all time.
We're with Kevin Ferber. He's a works Peugeot driver in the 90s, but even though he's got a Group B car now, Kevin, your career driving for a Peugeot started in a much smaller car. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, cool. I've been rallying with Peugeot for many years, nearly 10 years actually. Well, the last time I was a works driver in 1990 for the Peugeot works team. I started off with 205s, 309s, ended up some Group A cars, and probably my favourite car was a little Peugeot 1.3 Group A 205.
Thing is, Kevin, you've moved up now. You've had this little two-wheel drive 1.3, and you've got this fantastic monster Group B car that everyone's looking at. Can you tell us a little bit about why you've got involved in such a fantastic car?
Yeah, well, again, it's my history with Peugeot. For over 10 years, I wanted to be a works driver. I managed to do that through winning the Peugeot Challenge. And throughout that time, the dream car was a Turbo T16. They were banned in the time that I was competing with Peugeot, so banned from rallying. So I never thought I'd get the opportunity to drive one, never mind own one.
You obviously enjoy driving on shows like this, but have you ever had a chance to get this car in a forest?
No, and in particular, this car would never go in a forest. It's just way too expensive to do that now. And the stones and the mud, and even keeping the car clean and as pristine as it is, it's just not viable at all to ever take this car in a forest. So that'll never happen. It's lovely to get it out of the museum, to take it to a place like this and let the public see the car and take the cobwebs off it. But it's a serious business trying to keep these Group B cars in tip-top condition. It's very expensive, and I don't believe anybody would dare risk taking them in the forest now.
As far as I'm concerned, we've got the star of the show today. We've got Russell Brooks, twice British Rally champion, and the most fantastic thing is we've got 3 of Russell's old original cars that he's been driving today. What's it like jumping in and out of 3 of your old cars, Russell?
Well, it's quite a reunion. These cars come from 1985 for the Manta, which I used to win the British Championship. This is the tarmac car. The Sunbeam was my 1981 RAC car. And the Ford Escort is my tarmac car from 1979, so it's quite a collection of cars, and I've been jumping between them, getting absolutely worn out driving them and reliving my past.
It's amazing. Do you find is it hard to drive one car kind of, you haven't been driving them slowly at all, is it hard to jump in from one straight to the other, or do you find it natural?
Well, the hardest thing about them is the lack of power steering. You forget that after you've been driving road cars with very light power steering for ages, of course. You jump into these cars on racing tyres, no power steering, and you come out looking like Charles Atlas on a weight training course.
It's amazing to see out there, Russell, and the other nice thing is, seeing you out here after all these years, but do you actually still enjoy driving these cars and enjoying taking people around?
Yeah, it's great fun. It's a bit like reliving your past, but you can't imagine anything better. I used to get paid to do my hobby, and to experience some of the old times is absolutely wonderful.
What's interesting is that although all of these bikes look historic, they're actually produced brand new and made as replicas of the Formula One bikes. And I'm joined now by John Sims of Trident Engineering. John, you actually produce these bikes?
Yes, we do. This is actually a copy of the 1981 Works Suzuki that was ridden by Mick Grant and Graham Crosby. They won the Isle of Man TT, and he was Formula One world champion. And this is actually a more or less exact copy of what Suzuki raced in 1981.
And there's quite the demand for these bikes.
Yeah, they're very popular. Although they're not greatly expensive, but they're very cheap to run, and this sort of era of bike is becoming extremely popular.
Peter, a lot of people with classic cars may worry that they can't necessarily get hold of the parts that they may require, but that's not the case, is it?
Well, I can understand them worrying because a lot of the parts are becoming difficult to get, but we've had to remanufacture or have remanufactured a lot of the difficult parts. So hopefully we can keep everybody happy.
In terms of buying the new parts for the classic cars, does it make much difference to the cost of racing?
Not really, no, because so many parts on a racing car have to be replaced with new parts of some description. Whether they're remanufactured or original one doesn't really make that much difference.
Steve Parrish, you're here as the main host of the live stage.
Yeah, I'm the sort of, the quiz master as such. I've got all these famous people coming up and I'm interviewing them. We run a Question of Motorsport up here. We talk about the books here, pretty much everything. This is a central place where anyone can come and display their wares and announce what they've got at the show. And it's great for me because I've got all my sort of heroes of motor racing and bike racing turning up. Some great names, Stig Blomqvist from the rallying world. I used to race trucks with him, Phil Reed, Mick Grant, Steve Plater, the current TT winner. It goes on, and it's just great. It's sort of, some of the time I'm off at a tangent because I'm talking about answers that I want to know about, not maybe what the crowd wants to know.
But talking of the crowd, I mean, there's a lot of people here. It certainly seems to be a busy show. Yeah,
it's a lovely show. It's a very kind of friendly show, and you're walking around and some famous people that I've bumped into, people like Brian Lister, who built Lister cars, and just so many famous people, and they don't even announce they're here, they're just wandering around because they're pleased to be at the show. So I think it's got a fabulous atmosphere, and so many famous cars and motorcycles here as well. You know, some of the greats are here, and they're in what is ostensibly the Royal Showground. It's all very agricultural, but it's got some high-tech equipment here.
It certainly is a good-looking show, and in terms of the history that is here, it's immense, and there's celebrations. There's, the 30 years for Audi Quattro, there's 100 years for Alfa Romeo. What's the biggest pull that you've seen as you've been walking around?
I think it is about the history. Alfa Romeo at Centenary is something very special, and having someone like Stig Blomqvist here who won some of the early rally days in the 1980s. Nortons are here. It's their 60th anniversary from the featherbed frame, which pretty much turned the whole history of motorcycling around. And just everything. Even if you want a wiper blade for your old Land Rover, you can go out the back halls. And if you want to look at a £2 million car and go and see a famous Ferrari or BRM or something like that in the number one hall. So there's such a variety, and you come in and you just don't know where to turn next. And then you think you finish the show and there's another hall to find. And land speed record cars here, the fastest steam car, it goes on and on.
And of course the live rally stage.
Yeah, I haven't even got out to see that yet, but I'm waiting for the sun to come out before I go out there. And in fact, last year I got to have a go round there, so I might be able to sneak out at lunchtime and see if I can get in one of the famous old cars out there.
Awesome. Well, around us, I mean, you've got a bike history yourself, and around us in this hall there's a whole host of bikes.
Yeah, there is some fantastic Nortons here especially, and there's bikes that I used to race against over there, Franco Uncini's Factory 500 Suzuki, there's bikes that Mick Grant raced, Phil Reed raced, and there's even a bike over there that I used to race. I think it's up for sale, probably not a lot of money, and even an auction here, I believe, with some famous bikes in it out the back, H&H Auctions.
Let's join Rapid Richard now, who's on the live rally stage.
Thanks, Gemma. We've got Mick Strafford here with us. Mick's driven a lot of rear-wheel drive cars, and he's moved on to his fantastic Chevrolet Forenza. Can you tell us a bit about this car, Mick?
Yeah, it's a car that was used over in South Africa. This is a replica of it. They used them for racing and rallying across there, and they were very successful. But unfortunately, in '73, when the oil crisis hit, the Chevrolet team was disbanded, and that was the end of it. So they're not that well known, and certainly across here there's one genuine road car and this, and that's as good as it gets.
It is a beautiful car. You mentioned the oil crisis. It may be a small car, it may be a tidy car, but I believe it's got something horrendous hiding under that bonnet.
It has indeed, yes. It hides itself under a bushel, or in a bonnet in this case.
And can we just have a quick look at this?
Yeah.
That is amazing. And that is a
302 Chevrolet engine. It's an exact replica of the engine fitted to a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28.
And 302, that's cubic inches, I take it. So
that's right. It's just under 5 litres for homologation purposes. That's why they made them at that. And it's got a 4-inch bore and a 3-inch stroke, which makes it very high revving. It's just a fantastic engine. Absolutely fantastic.
Nick, this car from the outside, it doesn't look anything at all. Is it when you have it on the road? Are people surprised by the sound or what it does when it's alongside them?
Well, it's a funny thing because this morning when it was sat in Parc Ferme, people were looking at the metros and so on and everything of the escorts and not really paying that much attention to it until I started it up to bring it round here.